Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again.
It's time for the J. Craig 5, maybe 10-minute movie review. The Kid Who Would Be King is directed by Joe Cornish, and he's the guy who directed Attack the Block, John Boyega's first movie. He also had a hand in writing and directing The Adventures of Tin Tin. Very talented filmmaker. Did not know this was his movie until the movie started. Awesome surprise on my side. Before I get into the movie, I love this movie. This movie has the heart and the adventure that made me want to pick up a stick and fight the bad guys when I was walking out of the theaters back in the 80s. That's what this movie did for me, and it's what I did for my kids. When they were walking out of the theater, they had invisible swords and they were fighting the bad guys. And I just love that type of movie. Now, what this movie's about, it's an Arthurian Tale. Now, we've seen these before, but this is modernized. But at the start of the movie, we find out that when Arthur defeats Morgana, she vows to return to Earth when mankind is at its very lowest. Okay, so he says, Excalibur will be here waiting for you when you return and will defeat you again. All right, so that sets up our premise, and we know what's going to happen. And now we fast forwarded to the present day, and guess what? Mankind's at its lowest. We see a couple headlines from newspapers about famine and poverty and disaster, and we're just in a really bad way. Now, the movie takes place in England, but it surmises that the entire world is in a really bad place. So guess what? Morgana's going to come back now, and that's where we're introduced to young Alex, who is our hero in the movie. And he's a good-hearted kid. He's strong-willed. He has one friend who is bullied. He gets bullied, so that makes him get bullied because he stands up for his friend and is not afraid to back down from the bullies, even though he's going to get beat up. So he's got that heart of a leader. And that's where he finds Excalibur. He finds a sword kind of buried in a stone of a broken down building. He pulls it out, and his quest begins. Now he has to find allies. He has to convince the adults what's going on because he's just a kid and he might be imagining all this and having make-believe. And he's got to fight the bad guys. So this movie is really fun. And what I loved about this movie is the story and the message. This movie has a fantastic message. At one point in the movie, we learned that Arthur had to make his enemies his allies. Okay, now, in order to fight the bad guys, bring your enemies closer, make them your allies, and become equals with them. Alex must do the same thing now, which is a big challenge for him. And I love the fact that this message is so strong. Mankind fights each other, evil wins. When we bicker and fight and don't work together, the evil wins. And that's what this movie is telling. And in today's political climate, and just the world, that's exactly where we're at. The bickering, the fighting, one side versus the other. I'm right, you're wrong, and there's no common ground anymore. And based upon where we're at right now, this movie is a perfect time to come out, and it shows us that we need to work together, because when we're fighting, evil wins. And I think that's an awesome message. And so that's what really works for me. Outside of the fact that it's a great adventure story, it has a good heart, it's very funny. It's funny without being too silly, but a lot of laughs throughout the movie. I thought the kids did a really good job. I don't know any of these young children, but they did a great job in the movie, from the bullies to Merlin to, young Alex and his friend. It's a really good tale. Now, Patrick Stewart is in the movie somewhat as Merlin, and if you had a little trivia for you, the last time last time Patrick Stewart was in a King Arthur movie, it was Excalibur from the early 80s. And it's definitely not a kid's movie, darker John Borman movie, but oh my goodness, is that fun. But that's a nice little tidbit for you if you didn't realize that Patrick Stewart was actually in Excalibur. I really enjoyed this movie. And as I walked out, the kids were excited, and I heard adults saying, yeah, it was okay, but, yeah, this and that, but, okay. Guess what? This movie's not made for you. When I saw the trailers for it, or I heard about it, I didn't want to see it. I didn't see Joe Cornish's name on it, so I was like, okay, kids movie. Once my kids saw a trailer, all of a sudden they were like, Dad, let's go see it. I was like, all right, got a screening for it, let's go. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I gave it a chance, because I was delighted throughout the movie. It really hit the sweet spot for me, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think you will too, because it's got what it needs. Now, the ending can be a little expected. It's a big climactic battle, and people were saying, it's expected, and I wish they would have done something different. Like what? Like not have the epic battle? You need the battle at the end because that's what the kids remember. When you walk out of the theater, the reason why my youngest had an invisible sword in his hand was because the ending. And what did they say when we asked them what was their favorite part? Of course, it was the ending, because not only the last thing they saw, but it's the spectacular ending of good and evil fighting each other. You gotta have it. It's got a great false ending, by the way, where you think like Thanos is defeated by Gamora at one point, and you're like, oh, that was easy. Nope, that wasn't over yet. Same thing here. I was like, oh, that was pretty anticlimactic. Oh, movie's not over yet. That was a false ending. Pretty cool. Very good writing. Joe Cornish, I can't wait to see more of your work, man. You are very talented. Good job on this movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next one. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you go see it. Don't forget to subscribe, like over here. See you next time.